So we're going to run through a quick overview of the Microsoft 365 product and also focus on the business side of that product. So there are a number of SKUs. We will be covering those in future webinars, but again, we will cover off a little bit of summary detail for you. So we're going to have a look at firstly the landscape today from a customer's point of view and also from a reseller's point of view. Then we're going to start talking about what actually is Microsoft 365 for business. So it's important to remember that Microsoft 365 is a relatively new product, was announced at the Inspire conference in July. So it is, let's say, different from the Office 365 in a way. So again, it will appear as a different product. So we're going to give you all the details. And we're also going to show you some of the ways that you'll be able to deploy it and also what will appeal to customers in this space. So the first place we always need to start is by having a look at our customers' needs today. So sort of moving from the left to the right, we have a look and see that many customers are still living on platforms which they consider good enough. For them, they're perhaps looking to save costs or they want to save familiarity. They don't need to perhaps upgrade in their minds, but the reality is that with the pace of technology, a lot of these systems like Windows 7, Office 2010 are becoming very outdated. So they don't support some of the latest and the greatest features. They also have some issues when it comes to reliability, and we're also seeing that more and more devices are requiring the latest operating system to fully support those environments. So we need to obviously present a product and present good business reasoning as to why there should be a reason, a compelling reason to upgrade from these platforms. But many of you would probably agree that it's always best to be on the latest operating system to make sure that all the patches, the updates and the support is available. Now, not only do we have legacy front-end applications, but we also have legacy back-end applications. So things like our traditional Windows servers, we've also got traditional logins with NTLM authentication and our traditional on-prem environment. Now, thanks to Azure and Azure AD, we're seeing a growing acceptance and a growing usage of Azure AD because it gives us the ability to verify and use identity wherever the user may be, whether inside the office, but also out on their mobile device, anywhere working from home or from the Qantas Club or whatever. So we're seeing a transition here from servers and devices living connected to a blue cable on a cubicle to users roving around and also using multiple devices. So what we also see here is that many clients that we perhaps inherit have no particular strategy when it comes to technology. They're just buying PCs off the shelf or they're just upgrading them as they need. There's not a defined strategy. There's not an overall holistic approach to this. And again, what we're getting is a mixture of environments, a mixture of PCs. That means the more items in the mix, the more difficult it becomes to support, the more frustrating it can become for users. And again, what's happening now, we're seeing many of these devices, especially the mobile devices, being refreshed on a very, very rapid scale. So these are being updated very, very regularly. And that means, firstly, how do you make sure that they're always up to date? You can control the information on them. You can also secure these devices and, again, make sure that the information of the business is kept separate from any personal information. Now, what we also see is that users are very keen to use a lot of the latest technologies to make their life easier. So a lot of these are coming from the cloud like Google, Box, Dropbox, because these are the applications they need to use. These are up to date and many of them are probably paying for a subscription. You've also got third-party device management in Mobile Iron and Ironwatch they might also be using. But again, the problem with these endpoint solutions is that they don't have that single integration point. They don't have something like an AD to pull them all together and to have one login for the user and also one login to manage from a reseller's point of view. So our strategy is that we need to look at these pain points and come up with solutions that address them. Now, Microsoft has a range of solutions already, Office 365, Azure, products that will do this, but we're looking to combine these into a single product and make it much easier to deploy, manage, and also for the end user to purchase. So what does it look like from a reseller's point of view? Now, as users go out and they buy more devices and they add more applications from the cloud and on-prem, their expectation is that you, as the reseller or their MSP, have to maintain those, manage those, update them, liaise with the provider, and make sure that they remain secure around them. All right, they also are requiring you to keep up to date with the latest changes in technology. Let them know when new solutions become available that may help their business. What products are out there that can help them do their job quicker, easier, and also help them reduce costs as well and make it easier for their business. Okay, and we're seeing also to a move to a lot of custom applications. So people are now getting the ability to customize their applications, to link them together with third-party applications, both inside Office 365, for example, and outside. So this customization is being driven to improve that automation. All of that is something that businesses are looking for. Now, obviously, as we add more components, we're adding more potential flaws in the system, more entry points that security vulnerabilities could cause an issue. So we need to take a different approach to security because we now have devices that are basically roaming around on the internet. They could be active 24 hours a day. They may have operating systems that aren't Microsoft based on them. They may have applications that the user just downloads from an app store. So games, all those sort of things that may represent some vulnerabilities that users don't know about. So how do we secure that? How do we make sure that we keep our users basically secure and monitor that quickly and easily? We now need to manage across platforms. It's no longer just a pure Windows, Microsoft world. We've got Linux in the back end. We've also got things like iOS and Android, and all these devices have different requirements, have different security vulnerabilities, but still require management, maintaining, patching, updating, much like the traditional desktops did. Now, what we as resellers have to look at is then how do we differentiate ourselves from everybody else out there? How do we stand out from the crowd and basically move into an environment where we can make good revenue and we can provide good products and services without ending up cheapening ourselves and basically becoming a commodity item? So in many cases, much of the hardware, for example, has been commoditized. There's not a lot of difference in price points between them. Most MSPs provide that as an add-on value service, but they're not making the money out of those sort of items. So as the industry moves forward, a lot of these traditional items are also beginning to move to a commodity-based environment. So it's basically a race to the bottom with a lot of these. So where's the profit value here? Where's the opportunity to basically grow your business and also to provide additional incentive for customers to come on board? Now, we all would probably agree that it's becoming a greater effort every day to maintain our customer base. There are so many variables, there are so many different options, different workstations, like I said, security options, and the expectation from customers, and whether they're a single person or a multi-person or 50, 100, their expectation is the same. There's no differentiation these days between the us and the requirements of the size. They all expect top-notch security, they all expect the latest in technology, and they all expect the reseller to be able to do this for them seamlessly. Now, the good news is that what Microsoft has done to assist in this process is to take its well-known, and I would assume hopefully a lot of people already have good experience with Office 365, which gives you consistent desktop apps, Word, Excel, PowerPoint of the latest version, 5 installs, for example, on devices and desktops and Mac and PC. All those sort of things are provided out of the box. You also get the back-end service, so the Exchange, the OneDrive for storage, the Skype for communications, the new services like Microsoft Teams that have been rolled out to users free of charge and will continue to improve. And you'll also get in applications like the Business Premium Office 365, these new applications like Microsoft Bookings to allow you to take calendar events from outside. You've also got a Customer Manager, which is a basic CRM, and things like Mile IQ, which will measure your kilometrage and report back. So we're all pretty familiar, I think, with the Office 365 environment and the SKUs that it involves. Now, obviously, Microsoft is also very keen for people to move to its latest desktop operating system, being Windows 10. Now, it ran a successful program where it provided that as a free upgrade to a lot of users to incentivize them to move to the latest operating system, get all the benefits, the security patches and updates. And we've seen since that point a number of major releases going into this environment. We're also expecting the fall Creators Update to start rolling out to people from the 17th of October. So again, Microsoft is committing to making this the platform for the desktop to move forward and to continue to update that, much like it's doing with Office 365. But for example, in the Pro environment and Enterprise, we're now seeing the add-on or the improvement with things like the Defender security controls. So we're getting this inbuilt low-level layer of AV, which we all require, but we're getting a centralized management point underneath Windows to be able to do all that. Now, one of the most exciting things I must admit that I've seen of late that is coming with the Windows 10 product is the Autopilot. So if you haven't seen Autopilot, we'll mention and have a link for you, a video to have a look at. But in essence, what it allows you to do is basically for a device to be shipped from an OEM with a vanilla version of Windows 10 on it. Then when the user powers it on, connects it to the internet, it will auto recognize that device and it will basically put down the Windows 10 version of your choice along with the policies that you elect to have on that machine. So effectively we're getting a form of deployment directly from the cloud. So the user doesn't have to bring the device to you. You don't have to blow it away, re-image it, put on a standard image, then get it back out to them. The user can effectively buy that device from their local store, bring it to their office, log in with Azure AD, and the configuration that you've configured in the back end will then be pushed down to them. So it's a very exciting move in Microsoft part, and it, again, I think will continue to scale up and really improve the deployment options you've got when it comes to Windows 10 and Office 365. Now, the other thing there you'll notice is we also get automatic Office app deployment. So along with the ability now to deploy Windows 10 via the cloud, we can also get the ability to push out our Office apps from Office 365. So Microsoft 365 is including Office 365 and Windows 10 Pro and all these additional features and the ability to not only deploy the operating system and upgrade it, but also to push out the Office apps for you as well. Now, the third leg of Microsoft 365 is the best of the enterprise mobility suite. Now, there are lots of features in here. This is now effectively part of Azure, and what it's aimed to do is to protect two things. It's aimed to protect the devices, and it's also aimed to protect the information that lives on those devices, because as mentioned, the reality is that the vast majority of devices now live outside the organization. They're not tethered to traditional LAN. They aren't able to be accessed with things like group policy. They need to be managed and maintained using a different approach. And that different approach is typically components that Microsoft has with EMS. So when we combine all these together, we get what's known as Microsoft 365. And the good thing is from a single supplier, we get it from one admin console. So you can administer this with the same portal you're familiar with in Office 365 using the same skills that you're probably already familiar with. So again, what does it mean for the reseller? So the first thing it's going to mean for you is the opportunity for you to go and offer more services and more products to your customer. More products around security, more products around management to provide a totally integrated system for them, which means again they're going to bring you more into, you're going to bring them more into your environment, and you're going to have additional upscale opportunities here and the ability to scale out. You're also going to be able to have the products delivered from a single vendor. You won't have to go across multiple vendors. You won't get this, it's not our fault, it's their fault sort of thing. It all comes from a single supplier, which gives you the opportunity and the integration into something like Azure AD. So this is really going to, I think, make life a lot easier when it comes to managing some very, very complex devices and arrangements. Now, as mentioned, one of the real key things I think is the ability to implement this quickly. Microsoft 365 is a license, much like you're deploying now with Office 365, and you can push it in using your CSP environment, and you can deploy it as you would Office 365. You manage it from the console, and then the devices will roll out as expected. So again, it's not something you have to go and worry about and do complex configuration. In a lot of cases, it's very much a familiar interface. Now, obviously, you can look at rolling these sort of products into your existing managed services agreement. You can look to expand your managed services agreement, including these products. And we find that many customers now are getting more familiar with the cloud, more comfortable with the cloud, but their big driving thing is to manage, firstly, the devices which are roaming around with their corporate information. And the second thing is to manage that information as well. So most companies are sending vast amounts of information outside their business via emails, via file sharing, but also on devices. And they need that managed. They're really looking to make sure that that is held secure and someone can assist them doing that. Now, remember that we're moving the ball up the scale here. We're moving away from doing traditional hardware and traditional support. We're looking to really focus and add value in these new environments like security and information protection. Now, one of the key things I think is a lot of people talk about a trusted advisor. I would like to think that resellers are moving towards becoming a trusted innovator. So what that means is that you're proactive with these services. You go to your customers and you basically say, we know that this is a pain point, or we expect that you're going to have this pain point. This is the solution we've got. It's not a reactive business. It's a case of getting out there, getting in front of the customer early, and basically spotting these trends and going to them with a solution saying, chances are you already have this problem, we already have the solution. So again, innovate using these services like Microsoft's bringing and making available to customers who probably already have, in a lot of cases, the Office 365 platform anyway. That gives you unique value. There aren't a lot of resellers, I find, that are out there being proactive. They're really talking about the full range of Office 365 services and helping customers, again, using this trendy word, digital transformation, helping them to change their business from being one where people go to work, sit at a desktop and type on a keyboard, to being a world where they're mobile, they're accessing information, they can respond quickly and easily to any request that comes to them. And as we do that, we know in this world that security is always going to be a major question. We're always going to have the need for more security, and users do make that hard by moving around and using devices and all sorts of things. So security is not going away. Security is an even bigger market. Now, it wouldn't be a presentation without a few slides here about the business opportunity. So Microsoft's gone and done some research with Forrester that indicates that in essence there's a lot of percentage advantage that you can gain by looking at a product of Microsoft 365 Business rather than just Office 365. So Microsoft 365 is going to give you not only Office 365 opportunities, but also Windows 10 and also EMS and security options. And they will translate to the bottom line because they're, again, additional service and additional opportunities. Now, another interesting figure Microsoft has come up with is this figure here in US dollars, is that the average employee in the SMB space is basically costing or being spent on $1,320 a year. All right, so that is a figure that you can look at, and that's what's required, obviously, to provide people with these sort of services. Like I said, they're using multiple devices, they're working across environments, they need to have the support, the applications, and also the ability to be managed and maintained. So, as always, there are a number of different options here when it comes to what's right for your customer. So, everybody hopefully is familiar with Office 365. That's not changing. What's being added is the Microsoft 365 for Business. So what you'll get is the Microsoft you'll get the Office 365 product, you'll also get a Windows 10 product, and you'll get an EMS product, an Enterprise and Mobility. Now with Office 365 for Business, you'll get the Business Premium, you'll also get Windows 10 Pro, and you'll get a set of features around security. Now on top of that, if your customer needs more than that, you've also got Microsoft 365 Enterprise. So that will give you enterprise versions like E3 of Office 365. It will also bundle together Windows 10 Enterprise, and it will also bundle together the more advanced features of EMS, including things like Azure AD Premium. So you can now basically choose a solution that is pure Office 365 or a bundled offering of Office 365, Windows 10 and EMS. And these come in two major SKUs, a business and an enterprise, very similar to what's available already in Office 365. Now, if we focus on the business the Microsoft 365 Business, the product has already been in preview since the 2nd of August. Now, if you wish to preview that, you can do that for no cost, and that is then available via the CSP. So you can talk to your Ingram rep to get all the details there and get into testing it, having a look at it. It is available only through the CSP channels, and that's how the support is maintained. And it looks as though Microsoft will release this product before the end of this calendar year, so before the end of 2017. The rough estimate they've provided is around $20 a license per user per month, which I think equates to roughly 25 Australian dollars. But again, that will be announced obviously when it gets closer to release. But remember that at this point you can certainly go in and start previewing and playing with and getting a feel for what's happening and what the product involves when it comes to Microsoft 365 for Business. So how do you do that, right? So if you're not already a member of the Cloud Solution Provider program, you'll need to join that, sign up, and obviously take the appropriate actions also with Ingram to make sure that that then flows through to your customers and you've got a seamless experience. You can go to the link partners.office.com/Microsoft 365 Business to get more details from a partner perspective, FAQs, pitch decks, all sorts of things and resources are available there. Then you need to start thinking about, okay, how can we start extending our services? So if you're not offering, for example, device management, Microsoft 365 for Business and Enterprise will allow you to do that. How are you going to offer that? What pricing are you going to give apart from the licensing? Is there a monthly cost to maintenance? How do you roll it out onto Android, Windows 10? What's your offering that you're going to go to market with? And remember that the public preview is now available, so there's nothing stopping you from getting into that and getting a feel for that product now. So let me just throw you a few slides here to give you a bit of a taste. Now, as I said, that in the upcoming webinars, we're going to spend more time doing some deep diving into this product. But as you can see, the admin center is almost identical to the one that you're familiar with Office 365. But if you'll see that, as we do with many Microsoft products, we now have a setup wizard up the top here that you can just follow the bouncing ball and it will work through the options and make sure that it sets up all the licenses and does what it needs to do globally for you. Now, you'll also notice here that we have a new devices card. So we can go in and we can select that card and we can add devices which are things like iOS, things like Android, and also Windows 10 devices. And we can set policies for those. We can control exactly what they can access, who's got access. We can remove them from our environment. So you've got much better control of the devices accessing the environment thanks to this. And you'll see, hopefully, that tile also gives you the ability to remove company data. So we can now delineate between private and company data, which means when a device is either lost or leaves the organization, you can quickly and easily remove that corporate data. Now, we've also got another tile here that is a Windows 10 upgrade. So because Windows 10 is part of the package of the Microsoft 365 for Business, what it provides is an included upgrade for Windows 7 Pro, 8 and 8.1 Pro devices to Windows 10 Professional. So that's a free update that basically you can push out again basically remotely. So what you can do is you can send an email to that user, they can click on a link, and that will then deploy Windows 10 Professional for them. It will back up their system and do a standard upgrade. It will then apply the policies that you've set out to that Windows 10 environment. So this is a really good opportunity to give customers the ability to all come up to the same standard when it comes to their desktop operating system environment. Now, if the user already has Windows 10, for example, it will basically make sure that it puts on an appropriate version, secures it as per the policies. So the main benefit here is if you have customers who have workstations that are perhaps Windows 7 vintage or Windows 8 vintage, this is an opportunity for them basically to get access to the latest version of the operating system pushed out and managed directly from this console. So again, really simple to use. Now, if we go in here and have a look at the devices side of it, so we want to control the mobile devices here. Now, we could previously do this using the Intune product. We could also do this with some other Microsoft tools, but typically there have been an add-on. They've been in a different console. There's been a bit of I suppose a bit of a difference between the interfaces when it comes to this. Microsoft 365 brings all of those controls simply into the interface. So you can see here that you can do things like you can elect to delete information on inactive devices. So if a user buys a new device, sticks the old one in a drawer, forgets about it, then you can set up policies that will remove the information from those devices after the period that you nominate. You'll also see importantly that you get the option here to encrypt work files. So don't forget that many of the devices people have these days actually aren't encrypted. So if they are lost, it's probably not a difficult way to extract the files off there. You can go in and you can basically manage users how they work with Office files, whether they require a PIN, you can reset PIN. You can also deny things like jailbroken or rooted devices. So they have to be compliant before they can do that. Now, the important thing here is that it will work with both iOS and Android devices. So we're getting the ability to manage our Windows 10 desktops, we're getting the ability to manage our iOS and our Android devices. Now, at this stage, unfortunately, the ability to manage Macs is not currently available. Microsoft is working on that and bringing that into things like the fully blown version of Intune, but the Microsoft 365 for Business at this stage doesn't allow you the same sort of controls that you have for device management that you do with Windows or the iOS. So at this stage, no Macintosh control directly, but we expect to see that in the future. So let's focus on Windows 10 here. So you'll see here that we can now also secure our Windows 10 devices. So you've got your Windows 10 devices that are included in Microsoft 365, means you can roll those out to the desktops and upgrade them in that environment. And then what you can do is you can enforce policies like them having to have Windows Defender turned on. You can help them basically protect their threats. If they're using Microsoft Edge, you can turn the device screens off automatically after an idle, so it's obviously not left open that people could access it. You can also start integrating and working with Cortana. So what we're seeing again is this move to the digital assistant. So obviously all the platforms have things like Cortana, Siri, Google, Amazon has obviously got its product as well for home, so does Google. So we're seeing a move towards this environment with voice commands. So this integration I think is coming, and again something else that hopefully as an innovator you can have a look at and start using. If you haven't used Cortana with Windows 10, again, it can be very, very handy. It allows you to ask for appointments every day, look up different things. So again, start having a look at it. It gives you a point of differentiation, and it's also a wow factor for many customers. Now you'll notice that the last option on this page here allows me to install Office on Windows 10 devices. So as I mentioned, not only can I basically have a license for Office, but now thanks to Microsoft 365, I can now automatically deploy the appropriate software from Office onto these machines, much like I can run the Windows 10 upgrade. Okay, so we're getting this automation ability to be able to roll out these, make sure they're compliant, and do it without any user interaction. So when the user logs in with their Azure AD account, it's recognized, their operating system is brought up to spec, it is then has policies applied. When that's complete, then Office is automatically rolled out, and they can do that anywhere. They don't have to come into the office, they don't have to come into your office, they just obviously need an internet connection for that to happen. That's thanks to the standard click to run environment that Microsoft has been rolling out. Now, the other thing I mentioned was the Autopilot experience. So you've got a video here, link. I certainly highly encourage you to go and have a look at that. You'll also see there's a URL here, so aka.ms/Windows Autopilot. And the concept here is that a new device is basically shipped directly from the supplier, directly to the customer. The customer logs in with Azure AD. It recognizes them, again, upgrades their operating system if required, then also goes in and does your Office updates as well. Now, it's really easy to do this. You can get the device ID and create this Autopilot run sequence yourself. You just need a bit of PowerShell to be able to extract the device ID, put it into a text file, upload that text file into the same portal here, and then when that machine is identified and logged in with Azure AD, it will then take over and run Autopilot for you. So we expect to see Microsoft bringing more and more features into Autopilot to give it more power, to give it that auto deployment anywhere from the internet. So again, stay tuned to that. But if you haven't seen Autopilot, certainly start by looking at the video, have a fiddle with it. And again, in future webinars, we'll dive a bit deeper into this and hopefully get an opportunity to show you exactly how it works. But is extremely impressive what it's able to do and how well it works. I have been testing it and really recommend that people have a look at it to overcome this initial deployment struggle, which a lot of businesses have to get a consistent environment when users get basically new machines. So what I've got here is now a few slides that are very customer focused. So again, Microsoft makes these slides available in a slide deck that you can take and start talking to the customer about their needs and how Microsoft 365 fits into their environment. So the idea here is that we need to talk to customers about their ability to get things done using the tools they're familiar with, but bringing them up to date. So making sure they've got the latest version of Word, Excel, PowerPoint, okay? Also making sure that their information is in a central location. How many customers do you know have multiple copies of the one document spread across their C drive, their inbox, a USB drive, a huge range of stuff? So again, using things like SharePoint, Team Sites, OneDrive, Teams allows you to centralize and have a single point of truth. As mentioned, we have more and more people that need to share information with parties outside their business. So we've been able to do that with SharePoint and OneDrive, but recently announced Microsoft has opened up external access for Teams. So Microsoft Teams now permits external access. So you could create a project team, you could invite external users, they could come in and collaborate, chat, get all the benefits of Teams, the SharePoint site, all of that benefit directly. So this is a real boon, I think, for collaboration, especially in the small business, especially when you look at what's needed to be done. So a user in their business could have a chat, they could mention an external party, they could upload the file directly into the team SharePoint, and then the external user would come in and grab that file. So single point of truth, the customer retains the control of their information, but they make sharing relatively easy through effectively a dedicated customer portal. And the other thing I mentioned is to have a think about where Cortana and the voice activation does fit in this environment. I think as more and more phones, again, become more powerful, we'll be able to get this translation where, again, we are able to get this information without having to type on a keyboard. Now, again, we mentioned here that for customers, they want to work on their own device, whether that's iOS, whether that's Android, or whether that's a tablet. Again, we've got the ability to sync offline using the SharePoint technologies and OneDrive. We've also got the ability to make sure things are secure. So that's a big emphasis for customers. And as we mentioned, it's a way for them to work with their co-workers and also people outside their business. Now, as I mentioned, I think security is a big pain point for a lot of people. A lot of that they're worried about. They don't know what to do. They don't necessarily want to admit they have a problem or they see threats, but they see it in the news all the time. Ransomware, crypto locker is quite common. So the other thing that we see, obviously, with these devices is they get left on trains, they get left on buses. How can we make sure they're secure? So I'm sure a lot of people had a phone call from a very distressed customer saying, I left my device in a taxi somewhere. Can you wipe the information, or can you delete the information, or can I make sure that nobody can get access to it? So again, this is a market that is really prime, I think, to have people go in and provide support and also provide solutions that they can really feel guaranteed that their information is secure no matter where it is, inside or outside the business. And part of that security is also the fact to get the latest updates, to get the latest version. So once you've got Windows 10, once you've got Office 365 on your desktop app, those applications, you're entitled to regular upgrades and they can be done for you automatically. You can also take control of them if you want, doing some of your own configuration, but the idea generally is if there's no need, you can have these applications automatically update and then report back to the portal and giving you a central location to manage and understand where they currently are. So again, simplification of login is something that I think a lot of customers are becoming frustrated with. They've got to log into their Gmail account, they've got to log into their Office 365, they've got to log into Salesforce, they've got to log into all these different portals and bad passwords and what was that password, and changing passwords is a real pain. To have a single logon which is linked to Azure AD for their Office 365, for their devices, for their desktops, and everything happens with one login, which can be secured with things like multi-factor authentication, reporting at the back end, is extremely powerful and really will save customers a lot of time. So something, high recommendation I'd have a look at here. Again, the ability to manage their devices from a single console and getting employees quickly up to date. How many times have we had the fact where the managing director or somebody's gone out and bought a device, laptop, on the weekend at a special they've seen at the local mall and they want it deployed immediately, want all the tools immediately? Well, they just log into the device using the Azure AD credentials and bang, it can be updated and brought up to spec for them. So again, you'll get a copy of these slides after the fact. So what we've got is a bit of a plan comparison if you like to compare things side by side. So we've got our Office 365 Business Premium, that's our standard Office 365 offering for SMB, and now we're adding Microsoft 365. So you can see that it gives you effectively Windows 10 Pro, Autopilot, and some EMS features down there for you, okay? Then after that, you've got the standard Office 365 E3, and a Microsoft 365 Enterprise E3, okay? And that's going to give you more features around Intune. It's going to give you Azure AD Premium P1. It's going to give you things like the desktop optimization package, all these sort of additional options. The step up from there is to our Enterprise E5, and we can step up all the way to all the features of EMS, Windows 10, and Office 365 with the Microsoft 365 Enterprise E5. So we have, again, Business Premium, Microsoft 365 Business, Enterprise E3, Microsoft 365 E3, Enterprise E5, and Microsoft 365 E5. Okay, so again, range of options, and the good thing is with all the Office 365 and Microsoft 365 plans, we can easily scale between them. So you can add one user with Microsoft 365, or you can add 3 users, 2 users. You can add 2 users with business and 1 user with E5. So it's all interchangeable. Okay, so again, we've still got that flexibility. You can deploy with the CSP, push into their tenant, and again, it's generally a very, very easy process. But again, it's mix and match, which is a very important thing to remember here. So as we're getting towards the end here, focus on the targeting guidance, right? So how are we going to talk to our SMB customers? So we're typically going to have 3 silos of customers. Our very small, again, very small customers, typically without anything on-prem. They're running Macs, they're running iOS, they're running PCs. They're maybe doing a bit of ad hoc stuff themselves. They're running old versions of Office. They're primed for this product to bring them up to speed, bring them up to compliance, and also manage all their environment. The middle tier here is probably the sweet spot for most people. It's probably looking at your 10 to 15 style, 10 to 50 style environment. They've got a lot of devices. Again, they're not exactly compliant. They have different versions across different users. They may still have on-prem servers. How do we migrate that? How do we share this information? And they're probably looking at things like hardware refreshes. How are we going to start rolling this out? The big thing I think for this and above is the single user identity, the one Azure AD to use them all, right? So we want one login that manages our devices and gives us control, gives us auditability. We can see what's going on. So from this point on, again, the Azure AD single identity is a real bonus, I think, for customers. At the high end, we're going to have the Microsoft 365 Enterprise, which really is going to be hybrid environments, larger organizations that want advanced controls. But that doesn't mean that you can't play in that space. This product's going to give you the ability to talk to those customers not only about the Office 365 services, but also the services that are in the EMS suite. So again, don't overlook the power of things like Azure AD with its ability to do two-way password synchronization, to do multi-factor authentication with trusted IPs. There's a huge range of products and services that you can now incorporate in a single bundle where you had to provide them independently before. So again, we can now go to customers with a Microsoft 365 business bundle and a Microsoft 365 enterprise bundle that's built on what we already know about Office 365 products and Windows 10. Okay, so lots of opportunities. Hopefully it's given you a bit of an overview of the Microsoft 365 environment. All right, so we've got a question here about the VDI environment, and that is we can make available to you after the fact. So in essence, remember that the Microsoft 365 Enterprise SKU includes Windows 10 Enterprise. The Windows 10 Enterprise SKU is the one that potentially allows VDI environments. So Microsoft 365 for Business only includes Windows 10 Pro, and that is currently not licensed for a VDI environment. So if you wanted a VDI environment, you would have to look at something like Microsoft 365 Enterprise. So hopefully that answers that question.